Welcome to the Wolverine Confidential Podcast, brought to you by Corewell Health. I am Andrew Kahn.
I'm Ryan Zook.
And I'm Aaron McMahon.
The Michigan football team hits the road for a prime-time top 25 showdown with Oklahoma on Saturday night. What are the Wolverines saying in advance of this high-profile matchup? How will Bryce Underwood fare in a hostile environment? What do you need to know about the Sooners? We answer those questions and more to get you ready for the game coming up on Wolverine Confidential. All right, guys, good to be with you here Thursday afternoon, September 4th, a couple of days before Michigan's second game of the college football season on the road at Oklahoma, number 15 Michigan, number 18 Oklahoma. So as people like to say, it's a top 18 matchup. And kickoff is at 7:44 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:44 local on ABC. Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit on the call. We're going to get into that matchup, break down what you need to know about the game and the Sooners, and make our predictions more towards the end of this episode. Let's start with some news from the week. Biggest item, some we talked about in the last pod. We all said, hey, Michigan fans, do not expect Jon Barham's suspension to be overturned. He was ejected in the second half of the opener for targeting. Michigan appealed with the hope that he would be able to then play the entire game on Saturday. But nope, he will still miss the first half of Oklahoma. That suspension was upheld. We can get into some of the comments of his teammates and Sharon more. But yeah, just kind of general thoughts on that and any other, news from player or coach availability this week.
I'm not surprised it wasn't overturned. You rarely see these things changed. Once the NCAA changes something like this, it almost becomes precedent. So they tend to avoid that type of thing. And sure enough, this thing was not overturned. You can debate the play, whether it was intentional or not. It didn't appear to be that way. But it's by the letter of the law or the rule, the NCAA rule, it was targeting. And by, being ejected for targeting the second half, you're by definition you have to sit out the next half, which would be Saturday's first half against Oklahoma. So I wasn't surprised. Michigan had the right to appeal. They did. Sounds like, in talking to Sharon more this week, it seemed like they had the side of at least the higher ups in the Big Ten. He said Tony Petitti sided with their interpretation or their claim. And one of the football administrators of the Big Ten did as well. Wasn't enough at the end of the day. And look, Tony Petitti has a right to side with his conference team, right? Like they're going into a huge game against an SEC opponent. Ideally, you want to be fully healthy and have all your guys available. That's not going to be the case. Barham's going to sit out the first half. Now, if this would happen last year, I think it would have been a bigger deal than it is now. We've talked about this the last couple of weeks. Michigan's rather deep at linebacker. So I mean, losing Barham for 2 quarters, sure, it's not ideal. Like they would like to have him, but Jimmy Older played relatively well on Saturday. Cole Sullivan looked good. They've got other guys they can throw in there, so it's not a breaker for the Wolverines. But they're going to be without him in the first half. Michigan's not happy about it, and they have the right. They're siding with their player, but the NCAA upheld the call.
It's going to be fascinating to see how he plays when he comes back in the second half too, because it seems like he's a very intense dude, intense guy, and we'll see if he takes a little bit off on the full go switch here when he returns to line up in the second half. But I mean, it's going to be a raucous environment. I'm sure he's going to be charged up after getting ejected. But I mean, he's a physical player. We've heard that since he's came to campus, that he's one of the hardest hitters on the team, and we saw him absolutely wreck the quarterback Jack Lane twice in last week's game. But like Aaron said, I think Michigan feels really good about the depth at that position. It'll be interesting to see how Cole Sullivan handles this an increased workload in the first half. Played well in limited snaps on Saturday, but going on the road against Oklahoma as a sophomore without any starting experience is a different animal. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's definitely a big storyline heading into Saturday.
He did leave his feet. I'll just say it. I know you don't want to hear it. He left his feet, so there was a bit of launching. So I don't know, but I I'm of mind that football is just a very violent game. I mean, we could argue whether they should be playing the sport or wearing the equipment that they are. If it's enough, it's probably not, but they are, and it's really impossible. And there's just no way to know whether calling this, having the penalty they do, prevents it going forward. Is Jon Barham going to be, not target another quarterback because he was ejected for this one? Based on the comments from his teammates, no. TJ Guy, edge rusher, he's going to come back in the second half and S up for real. Those are the F was for one expletive, the S was another. And I mean, like the comments make it seem like he's going to come in and probably get ejected again. Like he's going to play with his hair on fire. That's kind of the what I took away from it.
Yeah, as Ryan said, he's a very intense dude. I mean, he hasn't spoken to the media since he got in Ann Arbor, so we haven't gotten to talk to him individually, but like just in talking to some of his teammates, he is, I think, behind the scenes like he is on the field. He's an intense dude. So I got to think he's gonna be motivated in the second half. For his sake and Michigan's sake, I hope he doesn't do anything dumb that gets him, potentially ejected again. But they could certainly use him. They're going to want him. There's no doubt about it. You saw Saturday against New Mexico, they did use him more in pass rushing situations, as that play obviously showed, and they could use more of that, especially with a dual threat quarterback that we're gonna get into here in a minute.
I wonder too. I mean, I don't know how much this is going to factor into it, but like if Michigan like wins the coin toss, do you almost say like, yeah, let's get the ball right away just to maybe get one more possession in the first half compared to the second half? I mean, it is. I don't know how. I mean, like we said, there is depth there, and I don't know if you want to put Bryce on the field right to start the game when the crowd's most into it, but something that just kind of popped into my head too.
That's an interesting point, right? Like this isn't the Michigan offense of the past where they want to play that slow, methodical game, and where they showed tempo last week, so maybe more possessions would help. I don't know. It's interesting vantage point. My guess is no. Just the analytics tend to point to you want to save your save it for the second half and get an extra possession then. So I don't know. It's a good point. I don't know if it's something they're considering, but something to pay attention to. That's for sure.
What else from Sharon Moore kind of caught your guys' interest? From his press conference earlier this week. I could start. I mean, he wasn't too interested in talking about his homecoming. He repeatedly said, as he has in the past, like, I don't want to make it about me. It's about the kids. But there's no ill feelings. I mean, he has nothing but love, it sounds like, for his alma mater, for many of the coaches that are on staff there, that he either coached him, or played with. In the case of DeMarco Murray, the running backs coach, he was the running back that, Sharon Moore was blocking for while he was there. So, yeah, it sounds like you'll have some pregame, on field, hellos and hugs, but that's about it. This isn't the pros where you can, have a night to go out to dinner with like some of these guys. Not that they would necessarily do that with the opponents anyway, but like there's just no free time in college. College coach, it's just all very structured and scheduled, and you're with your team, and yeah, it's not going to be it's completely a business trip, but it's still an interesting storyline.
It is. It's one that I think it's been a little overblown. I mean, you got to remember he only played there 2 years. It's not like he's in the
Yeah,
Oklahoma Hall of Fame or like he was some like
no,
stud player. I would guess if you were to ask a bulk of Oklahoma, like a bunch of Oklahoma fans, like a couple of weeks ago, if they remembered Sherrone Moore or even know who Sherrone
no.
Moore was, they probably would have said no. I think to me, the more fascinating thing is like you said, the connections he has to the Oklahoma staff. I mean, they run up and down the gamut. Brent Venables was a defensive coordinator when he was there. Kevin Wilson, who is an analyst on their staff, was the offensive coordinator when he was a player there. The tight ends coach was a tight end with Sharon when he was a player there. You mentioned DeMarco Murray, the running back. He knows a good chunk of the Oklahoma staff, which I think is interesting. I think Ryan, I think it was you that asked Sharon this week if he planned to contacting them before the game on Saturday, and he said no. So I don't know. I got to think he has a good idea of what some of these guys are going to try and run because he knows them pretty well. And the flip side goes as well, right? Like they have an idea of who he is and what he's all about. But I think the back and forth will be fascinating to watch on Saturday night.
I don't really understand the him trying to like completely downplay the magnitude of this matchup though too. It's like, okay, if this is just another game, then why did you get suspended for weeks 3 and 4 instead of weeks 1 and 2. Like, this is obviously a bigger game for you. It means more, a little bit more. Like, I feel like you can say that without being like, oh yeah, well, then we're putting all our eggs in this basket. But like the way he just said, yeah, this is like any other game, and kind of poo-pooed any sentimental react or feelings to playing and being able to coach in it. It was kind of this like, oh, okay, Sharon, sure.
Yeah, but yes, absolutely. Aaron's right about his contributions. I mean, I wrote about this last year. I kind of talked to a lot of different people that coached him, played with him. I mean, if I were to give you the name like Patrick Lyle, Tim McAvoy, Grant Tictis, these are some backup offensive linemen from the Michigan football team in 2007. So we're going back quite a bit ways, in Oklahoma history, to a guy that, was a reserve. So a little bit of a different homecoming than, say, Josh Heupel, when he returned with Tennessee. Anything else from the players or coaches? Sharon, I know, certainly kind of doubled down on his praise for Bryce Underwood's performance. But yeah, Wink Martindale went on the radio and hit on pretty much every player on the defense. I thought he had a lot to say. That was interesting. Yeah, just anything else before we kind of move on to Oklahoma specifically.
Yeah, I mean, not really. I think it will be interesting to see how Michigan utilizes Bryce in this game. I asked defensive line coach like Lou Esposito yesterday too. If like, yeah, like, because he mentioned that John Mateer's going to challenge them in the pass and run game. I'm like, well, what about Bryce? I mean, he ran the ball a lot at Belleville and is an athletic guy. And Lou was like, basically like, yeah, I mean, he's a passer first. Like, we're gonna pass him. He's not really a runner. I'm like, oh, okay, we'll see. I mean, I watched him play high school football, and I've seen him use his legs too. And I feel like they might have to throw that wrinkle in there a little bit to get past this Oklahoma defense, because I think it is a really stout Sooners unit on that side of the ball.
And that could be a way to get him, comfortable, acclimated early in the game, right? If you call some design run for him just to get him going, and ideally he doesn't get tackled at the line of scrimmage or sacked in that situation. But yeah, I mean, they've spoken about not wanting to get him injured, like, right? Like, and Sharon has said this in the past, the last couple of months. Like, if you design runs for him, you ideally need a second quarterback in these situations. And to put it bluntly, I don't know if Michigan really has a second quarterback they feel comfortable putting in there and being a legitimate starter. So they're going to have to be real careful about how they use him in the run game. And they're going to use it. They have to. And they're going to have to pull it out at some point. And I think Saturday night may be an opportunity to do that, but they're going to have to pick and choose their spots. I mean, it made sense, right? You don't want to run him against New Mexico. It's not worth it. You probably don't want to run him next week against Central Michigan. Not worth it. But, some of these bigger games, Nebraska on the road, Ohio State, Michigan State, et cetera, like games you really need to win and want to win, you're going to have to break down your back. So we'll see it at some point. I would assume we'll see some of it Saturday night, but I don't know. We'll see what the game plan looks like. Chip Lindsey it was real apparent like last week, just in the way that New Mexico game, flowed out. Like they were slowly integrating stuff. It wasn't nearly as much as I think they have, in the bag, so to speak. And they're slowly rolling the offense out. I think we'll see more of it Saturday night. How much is probably going to depend on the flow and the tempo of the game.
Life is beautiful and fragile. We fall. We get tired. And sometimes we get sick. But with Corewell Health, we are also strong. We fight disease. We battle cancer. We come together. We come back. We push forward. When the body breaks, we break through. Corewell Health. We can.
All right, so let's move on to Oklahoma here again. Saturday night in Norman, 7:44 Eastern time, 6:44 local time for you guys, though, that will be there. Set your clocks back. But this Oklahoma program, I'm not sure how much this matters in the transfer portal anyway, looking back at previous years. But Bob Stoops took over in 1999 and just, restored the glory there. I mean, you look at their list of seasons and it's just littered with 11 and 12 win seasons and, appearances in the BCS games and all that. they've had 2 losing seasons since, and they both come under their current coach Brett Venables, who went 6-7 in his first year, then 10-3, then 6-7 last year. The response to that last season was to retool the offense by hiring a new quarterback and then an offensive coordinator. They paid them both pretty good, it sounds like, and they brought him over from Washington State. And the results in week 1, positive, I'd say, a 35-3 win over an FCS team, Illinois State. But the quarterback I'm talking about is John Mateer, 30 of 37, 392 yards, 3 touchdowns, an interception. He ran the ball a little bit. He is definitely a dual threat. That's this guy, Ben Arbuckle's offense. It's throwing the ball a lot, regardless of the score, regardless of the kind of down and distance. And then a lot of the running is going to come from the quarterback too. So that's kind of what you need to know with Oklahoma. That's where it all starts, but there's plenty more to get into. I guess, what have you guys seen from Mateer or anything else from Oklahoma's personnel?
He's a talented kid. When they got him out of the portal in I think it was the spring, it made sense. He's a good fit to play, I think, at this level of football. If you go back and look at his numbers, Washington State, he was very productive. He had some big games where he put up some big yardage, and bringing over the offensive coordinator makes a whole lot of sense, right? Not a whole lot of change to the offense. You're basically bringing them over to run what they were doing at Washington State to try and complement Oklahoma's defense, because that's really been the strength of their program under Venables the last couple of years. They've been a good defensive team. So you just need to give them a kick in the butt offensively. And Mateer, through one game at least, he looked pretty good. He had some good numbers. He did throw an interception, made a mistake early. But he's, I think, the first in a decent line of good quarterbacks Michigan's going to play this year. He's going to be a challenge, not just throwing the football, but as you said, he can run as well. So it's going to be a challenge for Michigan. It's unlike anything they saw last week against New Mexico, and that's no shit, Jack Lane. But these are just two different quarterbacks. I'm curious to see how Michigan responds. Right, we talk about the defensive line, the depth they have up front. They're going to have to be disciplined and be careful in how not over pursuing the quarterback, because as we know, Mateer can get loose and pick up some yardage. So it's going to be a challenge to the defensive line and the linebackers, right? So maybe this is a good situation for Jimmy Rolder and Cole Sullivan, two guys that necessarily are less experienced than Jon Barham, but B, do pretty good in the run game. So they're going to be disciplined and tackle well, because if they don't, it could be a long game for them.
I think part of the intrigue of this matchup too is I see so many parallels between these two programs from last year and heading into the offseason. Both teams had pretty brutal offenses last year and really addressed some positions of need at running back and quarterback and receiver. We talked about Mateer, but they also added one of the top running backs in the portal, and Jaden Ott, who didn't play, only had one carry in the first game, but it sounds like Brent Venables says he'll be good to go and get a lot of action against Michigan in week 2. Added some transfer wide receivers, and same thing with Michigan. You put all your eggs in the Bryce Underwood basket, land him, get Justice Haynes from Alabama to bolster the run game, and get Donovan McCulley at receiver too. So I think both teams have foundational quality defenses, and I think that both defenses will play, but it will be like whose newly constructed offense can put up enough points on Saturday to win the game.
I messaged a friend recently, big Michigan fan and a longtime listener of the pod, saying just, I thought, the opener went well for Michigan. You think they have a shot this week? Oklahoma is flashy, but they might be terrible in the trenches. That's what I wrote. And he got back like, yes. Thing is, same could be said for Michigan, especially with their offensive line. And I guess that is true. You look at those numbers from that game, and it's like you shouldn't have to lean on Mateer like they did against Illinois State. Just got really nothing from the other running backs. And yeah, Ott working his way back from injury. We'll see if they can unleash him in this game. But that's running the ball and stopping the run, definitely a question mark for Oklahoma. We don't need to get into our prediction yet, but I think that's where many football games are decided, and I think both teams have question marks there.
Yeah, especially in a game of this magnitude, where I think you might see a slow start from both teams trying to feel each other out. Michigan's going on the road for the first time. They do have a true freshman quarterback, so given the success Michigan had in the run game last week in New Mexico, I gotta think they're going to lean on the run game early. They're going to try to, at the very least, which it puts a lot of pressure on Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall. The offensive line will need to show up and block and create some space. It wouldn't surprise me if this game ends up being a slugfest, right? We see a low scoring game that you see a lot of punts, etc., a lot of drives that end and rather quickly. So yeah, it certainly has a recipe for that. An offensive defensive line who runs the football better, because you got two talented quarterbacks, two decent defenses that they could theoretically stop the pass. So no, you hit the nail on the head. It wouldn't surprise me if it comes down the lines.
How important do you guys think it is to get Rod Moore back for this game? And do you think what any inkling on whether that will happen?
Yeah, Sharon was asked this week. He the jury sounds like it's still out. It's up to Rod, and it has been the case for a few weeks now. It's up to Rod and when he returns. Sharon said, I did believe he categorized him as questionable. I lean no, just given I don't. I put myself in Rod's shoes. Do you want to come back in this game and make this your first game back? Where like his first game back probably isn't going to be a full complement of snaps, right? You're probably looking at 15, 20 plays max. You are going up against a higher powered offense, a better team. Do you want that to be your first game back on film? And Rod said it when we spoke to him a few weeks ago when he was named captain. Like, I'm coming back to try and put a good play on film. And do you want to risk, getting beat? Do you want to risk, something happening and that being your first game back? So I lean no. And look, Michigan would like to have him back. I think he's a captain. He's a really good player when he's fully healthy and full go. But I think they've got some figuring out to do in the back end still too. And I think they would like to develop some continuity back there with some of those younger guys. So I'm leaning more toward next week, CMU. I think that it might be the game where he comes back. But I do think he'll still travel. They'll probably ask him pregame, hey, do you want to play, or are you up for it? And so it's up to him ultimately. Michigan has cleared him. He is eligible to play when he wants to play. It's his decision at this point.
Yeah, I'd probably lean to no as well. I mean, Sharon was asked about it, but so was Zeke Berry, and his response was it seemed kind of telling to me. He's like, I don't know, I haven't really talked with Rod. I'm not really sure if he's going to play like that. To me, it hinted at like, probably doubtful for this game, but yeah, you never know, and getting him back would probably provide some stability in the secondary on the back end too. And even if he's not 100%, he's probably better than some of the inexperienced guys they have back there right now too. So I think Michigan's feeling a little bit more optimistic about the return of tight end Hogan Hansen, which would, I mean, yeah, Marlon Klein had a breakout game in week one and led the team in targets and receptions and receiving yards. But getting Hogan Hansen in the mix too, and Michigan may be able to utilize a few more two tight end sets could go a long way. I mean, he's a quality blocker, and I was impressed with him as a freshman. So if they can get him back healthy too, that would help, especially because there's not really many tight end options behind Klein at this moment.
All right, so let's get into what we're thinking here. I publish the Big Ten picks each week where all of us MLive college football writers pick all the games against the spread. So I know at least one of us won't be picking Michigan because they were getting 5.5 points, and one of you took Oklahoma. Now this is the same person who was hedging his bets a little bit last week with the pick, so we'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
The other one took Michigan. The other two of us took Michigan, but that doesn't mean we think they're going to win. I'll say that again. I look in Oklahoma and I just see a team that's a little bit flawed, but they're playing at home. Their quarterback's a veteran. It's a game I picked Michigan to lose before the season. Did I see enough last week to change my mind? I need more time. What do you guys think first?
This was a game I had in my coin toss bucket when we were talking about the Michigan schedule before the season started. I wanted to see what Bryce Underwood did week one. I wanted to see what the offense looked like, and they exceeded my expectations. But then I look at the Oklahoma side and I see what John Mateer did, and he again put up some big numbers. They moved the football. They did put some points on the board. Again, it was against Illinois State, but either way, I'm with you, Andrew. The more I look at Oklahoma, the more I think Michigan does have a shot Saturday night. I don't know what the trenches are going to look like. I'm unsure about their run game. And you look at the production they did at receiver last week. I question, are those guys going to show up again Saturday against Michigan's improved second, Michigan's better defense? But where I in our picks, I went with Oklahoma -5.5. I'm going to stick with that because, like you said, when you compare the quarterbacks, if I had to pick one, I'm going to go with the guy at home, the more experienced veteran, the guy who is a dual threat guy, and Oklahoma's at home. So I think you're sending Michigan and a true freshman on the road. You don't know what he's going to do. You don't know how he's going to react. And we still have questions about about Michigan's offense. They were hot and cold last week against New Mexico. I think Oklahoma wins this game. I think they win it probably by a touchdown, but I do think it's gonna be close. I think it's gonna be a back and forth affair. Maybe they pull it out late. I think Michigan is competitive. It wouldn't shock me at all if they outright won the game. But I just gave the home field advantage and just the experience factor at quarter. I don't want to say talent because Bryson Wood might be more talented than John Mateer, but he's played more football. He's done it in big environments before, and this is in Norman. So I'm rolling with Oklahoma by like a touchdown, but I'm expecting a good game. I hope it's a good game.
All valid points by Mr. McMahon there, but I think there's an X factor here that I think is going to come into play that you can't really quantify, and it just seems like when Michigan faces this type of adversity or when they feel slighted, whether it was back to the 2023 game or even Ohio State last year, they seem to kind of rise to the occasion. And with the Barham suspension, with this being Sharon Moore's last game before he's suspended for 2 games, I just have a feeling that they're during maybe a play above their punching weight here, going on the road and just put together a really clean performance and squeak out a win and come home 2-0. I just one of those feelings. I get at McMahon's points for on a lot of those, and it wasn't a perfect game by Michigan at all in the opener, but with Bryce in this offense, I think the defense will shore up a few things, and you have Dominic Zavada too, one of the best field goal kickers in the country. I think it's going to come down to his leg, and leaning towards like a 20-17 Michigan victory.
Very nice. We have some disagreement around here. I'm in between you guys. I think this game is extremely close, but Oklahoma pulls it out. Bryce Underwood, better than expected for me. Maybe not those inside the program. I just watched the high school. I saw him in high school, and I just thought he's a little bit more of a runner, kind of bail the pocket, and just I'm bigger and faster and stronger than most of my competition, and can just rely on that. And the strong arm was there, but we did see the touch. Again, no runs last game, designed or otherwise. So impressive, but I still question some of the talent around him, both at the offensive line and at the skill positions, like their backs, but especially Haynes. But geez, the receivers, I don't think Marlon Klein should be your best option this year. I mean, as much as he said he's out to prove that he is a threat in the pass game, you want to see more from McCulley and then some of the guys behind him. I know he spread the ball around, and I don't think that the offense was good by all means, and the defense, I think, again, be a nice game to have Rod Moore, be a nice game to have Jon Barham for the whole thing. I'm leaning something like 27-24 Oklahoma. So give me the points. I'm confident in that. But in the end, I think this is one of those toss-up games that Michigan loses, but does not crush them. I mean, again, not a Big Ten game and not a playoff eliminator by any means. It just means you got to be a little closer to perfect the rest of the way to get in. But I think it should really be a good game. I'm excited for you guys to be there. Either of you ever been to the state of Oklahoma before?
I have, yeah. I've been to Oklahoma back in my NBA days. I went to Oklahoma City once. And Norman's actually, I didn't realize how close Norman was to Oklahoma City. It's just 20 minutes south. So but I've not been to the University of Oklahoma. Looking forward to it. Stadium holds I looked it up today, 80,000. So it is a relatively big stadium, and as you said, the program has a lot of history. Not a whole lot else going on in Norman, so I got to think they're going to be hyped up for this game.
When I actually played hockey at Oakland University my freshman year, we played at Oklahoma. And we played in 2 Oklahoma, I think Central Oklahoma too. But I don't really remember anything from those trips except for someone on my team's 21st birthday, and that being a tough ride to the airport and flying home. But other than that, I don't really remember much about it at all. So it'll be good to go back and see it again. That was a long time ago now, it feels like.
I should point out again, I wrote about this. I'm not just touting my own stories here, but yeah, Michigan is first all time in wins in college football. Oklahoma's sixth. Michigan 10 national championships, which is fifth all time. Oklahoma has 7, which is ninth all time. Oklahoma has 7 Heisman Trophy winners. I don't think people maybe realize that. That is only USC has more with 8. Michigan has 3, which is more than most every other program. So yeah, I mean, you see the quotes from the coaches that kind of, speak to the significance of this matchup historically. Again, first real road game against an SEC team ever for Michigan. Went to South Carolina in 1985, but South Carolina was not part of the SEC at that time. Michigan will host Oklahoma next year to wrap up this, home and home series. It's 2 Jordan brand schools, just dumping the notebook here. A couple of
And it's the biggest game of the weekend. Like we all talked
Yep.
about. I mean, there's a lot of mismatches this week. A lot
Yes.
of FCS, Big Ten team. Like this is the marquee matchup. This will be the game everyone is watching. It's Big Ten versus SEC in week 2, which you rarely ever see. So a lot of folks should be tuning in. It should be, and it's at prime time at night. Like you can't add any more to this the environment. So no, it's going to be great.
Yeah, all those, 3 top 10 matchups last week, that's not the case this week. This is the only game, ranked versus ranked. So that's pretty cool. And then, it is at night. I don't know if you guys saw, or maybe you just already know. You know how many games in a row Michigan has won at night?
It's long.
13
in a row at
Oh,
night.
yeah.
Yeah. So Michigan is rolling in these night games. Obviously their success in, recent playoffs and Big Ten championships helps. And then they have added in recent years now this kind of, cupcake game often to start the season at home. But still 13 at night for, a team program that doesn't really like playing at night is not too bad. We'll see if they can make it 14 in Norman. The Wolverine Confidential podcast crew is split on that, but that's why they play the games. More content to come before the game. And from Aaron and Ryan from the press box in Norman on Saturday night. In the meantime, check out all our coverage on MLive.com/Wolverines. Thanks for listening.